Hey guys, welcome back to the Transformation Church Message Recap Podcast. Got it. We are here. We are back.
We did it.
For another episode, another week, another fun time, you know,
another day in the life of Transformation Church.
I know y'all missed us for a few days, probably.
But we're back.
You think they've really missed us?
Yeah.
Us.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't they, you know?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So Nate's with us. Student director.
Hi, guys.
Guest experience director.
Let's go.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nate's with us. Mainly because everyone else is working.
Yeah.
Nate doesn't do that.
No. I don't work at all.
Well, you know, I'm not going to argue that.
No,
actually, that's not true.
We're just
Yeah,
kidding.
no, I do a lot of work.
Nate works hard around here.
Work hard.
Speaking of work, he did work on Sunday
Yeah.
by preaching.
Yeah.
He did. Nate
It's a fun time.
preached a message. Preached it 3 times.
Preached 3 times.
How many times do you think you actually preached it? With you?
Probably like at least 10 times.
Yeah.
At least 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
I can see that.
I practice a lot.
You like to practice.
I do.
He's a practicer.
Yeah.
I practice.
You even came up here and practiced.
Absolutely. Every time I've preached any time, I've come up here the night before, and I'll normally like pray a little bit and walk around, and then I'll practice, and then then call it quits. I'm like, all right, God, I've done my part. Now you do what you
I surrender.
Yeah, literally.
I surrender.
No, I practice too. I don't necessarily come up here and like do it from the stage, but
Yeah.
I do like to run through it, but more so for time.
Yeah.
Make sure I got
Yeah.
I'm on. You know, it's easy to go over.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, 100%.
So I usually will run through in my head to make sure with a clock, like a timer, just make sure I'm where I need to be time wise. But no, I get it. You don't really do that probably because you do it every week though, like a practice.
So I practice. No, not like that. So I do. Obviously, we have Thursday run through now. So I have that.
That's a that's a
So
practice.
that is obviously that's a big practice rep. I'll do one more, but I did it at home on Saturday night. I'll do one more run through. But I practice. I practice the intro to my sermon and the outro from my sermon probably 4 or 5 times. So what I call getting the plane off the ground and getting it back on the ground. It's the language we use. It's like making sure that, you know, most pastors lose their audience in the first 3 minutes, or they lose the power of them. It's all good. They lose the power of their message in the last 3 minutes because they kind of fumble around, and then it's like, all right, let's pray. And it's like, so we want to keep our audience in the first 3 minutes, and we don't want to lose our message in the last 3 minutes. So that I practice a little bit more to make sure it's really what I want. And then the other side of that too will be, what is the shortest version of the story I'm telling in the beginning?
Right.
I really struggle with that. Kyle's been helpful with that. He's the one that's usually like, if you can make that 5 minutes turn into 3, that'll save you in the end. Like it'll add back up. And so I've had to do some of that.
Well, anytime it's just like even writing something, like if you've ever had to write, to go back and like you can all day restructure sentences.
Yeah.
You know, different words and, you know, things like that to like shorten. And a lot of times it's better.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I mean, I think some people started getting good at that with character counts.
Yep.
You know, we're on like social media where you can, how do you reword this? How do you make this sound the same but
in the shortest way possible?
Absolutely.
And I think any good writer probably does that, you know. Just like when I've heard these guys like Carrie Newhoffs and leaders and stuff, when they've written books, that first transcript, they go back and the publisher will say stuff like, you know, get rid of 20% of this. You know, like edit it down.
Yeah.
Like,
that's what I've loved. I've always loved like Tim Keller, because I've always said I feel like he can say in a sentence what it takes other people a chapter. Like he has the ability to really, or in a paragraph, what it takes other people a chapter.
That's good. Just some people are just great writers. Too.
Yeah, and Tim Keller is definitely a great writer. I just feel like he really has the ability to encapsulate that. So, yeah, whenever I'm doing that, I'm trying to find the shortest version. And you know, as communicate and I think especially as storytellers, I think you're a really good storyteller. You know, Nate, you're a good storyteller. People that are good storytellers, when your goal is to tell a good story, you want all these subtle nuances and peripheral parts of the story because it's what makes it funny or emotional or it's just part of what you lived out, you know what I mean? But when you're telling it with a goal of it connecting to this thing in your sermon, all those peripherals don't really matter. And so it is hard to convince yourself to get rid of these details that don't serve the story and its connection to your sermon, even though as part of your story, it really is a cool thing. You know, when we do Church at the Movies, that's one of the first things me and John do is, you know, when we do Church at the Movies, we'll pick a movie and we'll watch it 3 times. And the first time we're trying to gather, like, how do we, you know, where's the meat of this content? What's the best thing? The second time we're actually saying, like, what parts of this story don't matter, right? You know, so like we did The Greatest Game Ever Played last year, right? There's actually like a love interest thing that happens in that movie between him and this girl, but for the story we're telling, that love interest doesn't matter. So it's 15 minutes of a movie we don't need. Yeah. And it's kind of the same way when we're telling our stories in our sermons. Like, you got to find the shortest version of it. So so I'm doing that on Saturdays, is like, what's making sure that I know what it looks like to get the plane off the runway and back on the runway. And then one of the reasons it's helpful too is because it's like, if you know what those two things, if you've mastered what those two things are supposed to sound like and feel like, you feel very comfortable turning it on when those lights come on. You know, it's like we've all seen someone public speaking and like the lights come on and they're like, hey, glad everyone's here. And that person has not practiced getting the plane off the ground. They know what their message is, but they haven't put in thought into how to flip the switch and turn it on. Well,
crafting a message is one thing. And maybe it's a God-given, Spirit-led, very applicable, necessary message. Delivering that is another thing too. And I think that's probably where some people probably get themselves in trouble. Or that's why I, believer that public speaking is a learned skill.
Yes.
Some people are naturally better at it than others, just off the but your best communicators, including preachers and the ones that any of you would watch on TV or see on Instagram or whatever, those guys, aside from the message and how powerful or anointed it is, they practice their public speaking part because it does matter. And I think what I have found is finding your own voice and all that. It's like I think that I don't remember who it was recently. I think it was a preacher or a pastor. It might have been Chad Veach on one of his episodes was talking about relating it to comedians. Were they related to comedians? Yeah. But you listen to like Kevin Hart. A lot of people say he's one of the greatest comedians. He would tell you when you watch him when he's starting out is he was trying to be like who he admired. Mm-hmm. That's what you do, the mannerisms and I think preachers do that too. You find the ones you like and you're like, oh, well, I like that message. You start trying to emulate that, and then at some point though you find your own your style or your voice. Like if you're not funny, you shouldn't probably be funny, even though you may want to be. Like John Piper is not known for his humor and his messages, but like what a powerful theologian and a modern day theologian and preacher in that regard. But then you have the guys that are funny. Like I always love Judah Smith for that. There's a lot of humor, and somehow it all ties in at the end, and you're laughing, and then he's pulling on your heartstrings at the end, and it's just just completely different style. So no, for sure. I think that matters. Finding your own voice, and I only preach like once or twice a year, but I have found for me where I think I tend to do best is when I've taken whatever scripture I'm going to use, and after I've read it, is retell it in a story. Like like when I did Hosea and Gomer or Zacchaeus and some of these stories that I love. Yeah. But it's like I feel like I just do a better job because I do think I can be a decent storyteller. Is retell the scripture in a story that paints a picture of what's going on in this scripture, other than just reading these 4 lines or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and that's what I say. I think what you're saying is really, really true. You know, it's just like you're trying to figure out the best way to shape your communication style is, and it's like it's big. It's an important part of the process that you just have to do over time. You know what I mean? So like I like to preach. I like to usually shape my messages as a suspense builder process.
Yeah.
So I like to move people through a story and grab truths along the way. Whereas you're like a recap communicator. So it's like, here's the story. Now let's process it and look at
like
these
what
truths.
is this? Yeah, like even this Sunday, I'm gonna the beginning of my message. I will be reading the story, the scripture.
Yeah.
But then later, we're gonna dive deeper into that and tell the story, not just read it.
Yeah.
And that's gonna be the message is doing that. Yeah. It's I guess it's a recap like that.
Yeah, recap preaching.
And recapping it based on whatever the kind of the topic is around.
Yeah, yeah, because you can, just like with everything else in the Bible, it's like you can recap it from so many different perspectives.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, like
absolutely.
Noah's Ark, you know, you could recap that from a million different perspectives if you wanted to. So
that's what makes it great, though. I mean, it's what makes it so cool.
And it's all truth too. You know, it's not like you're making stuff up. It's just like this is what's being communicated. Look at how Noah or the people or the
there's a part of me too, and I think I heard Judah Smith say this one time that it was advice he got from his dad. And that's what he does. He always reads the scripture first. And his dad told him, who was a pastor as well, is no matter how good you do at preaching this message, even if like you bomb it, you read the word. So for me, it's like if all the dots don't connect,
right?
You know, or maybe I will get nervous and I can't make it connect or doesn't connect the way it did in my head with the crowd by the time I give it. At the end of the day, I read the word and you pray that the word does the work as best it can.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So it's like that's a part of me why I like doing it that way.
Yeah.
But I also don't do it every week. You know, I'm sure I'd probably do a little different if I was like the preacher or the main communicator.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm glad I'm not, honestly. I wouldn't want to. That's a lot of work and pressure. Maybe not pressure, a lot of work. I mean, pressure probably, but it's definitely a lot of work. You know, you have to weave that so much time into your calendar and your schedule. Like I don't have to. Even more so for you, Nate. I mean, you got to prepare stuff for like with students and stuff that I just don't have to do that, and it just seems like a lot of.
Nate just throws something together.
I don't.
Grab something out of the pantry and throw it together.
Yeah, no, I don't. But
it is. It is different. It's something that you have to, like I said, you have to work on. I mean, it's part of going into Sunday. You know, me and Nate got a chance to spend some time looking at his message and trying to help. You know, for Nate, it's like when you're communicating to a very broad audience, like you are on a Sunday morning, it's like, what is the way to communicate it the most effectively? And there's even communicative concepts that we were able to digest together and try to find the one that he was the most comfortable with, which is great. So
yeah, but you can also tell people that are naturally like we said when you preached last year for the first time. I mean, your first time was way better than my first time.
Jeez,
I remember my first time was at Kingsfield in the youth group, and I found that message. Speaking of this, not that long ago, on my computer,
we gotta watch
and
it.
it's so much about me. You know what I mean? Like, because it was my first time, and I was newly saved, and it was. But I was talking about opportunity, but part of it was they wanted me to kind of give my testimony in it.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So it makes a little more sense. But I read it and I was like, I felt like I was talking about me the whole time. Yeah. And I was like, this is so terrible. This is the worst thing ever. I'm like so glad they didn't have it on video or recorded or something.
Look at this on YouTube.
Oh my
gosh, that's bad.
Yeah. So,
yeah, how'd you feel going into yours, man? What was?
I felt good because I've practiced it so much, and I felt Something I tell the students a lot is like, you don't have to believe what I say, just believe that I believe it. And so like that's one of the biggest things. Like I'm so passionate about it. So people see me up there and like. I'll get on points and I'll like when I was like, I see some of the kids worshiping more, back here. And I was like, I believe that and I'm passionate about that. And so I think if you're up there and people will know if you're passionate, people will know if like you really believe what you're saying and you, and so like, that's something that and a lot of people, I'm very passionate in I'm very enthusiastic with when I eat my food and something like, oh, this food's amazing, everything. So like, but like
yes, you do.
Well,
yes, you
even
do.
with that though, it's like, I think you're right about the passion, but I also like how you just added the word enthusiastic.
Yeah.
Because you can be passionate about something and not express it the way you express it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
but you're definitely passionate, but you're also enthusiastic in a way others may not be.
Yeah.
Which is good. That's your style, like, and all that's true. And I think you're still kind of under 30 and young, that there's stuff you can almost get away with. As you get older, you can almost don't get away with. Or the fact that you're just not there's stuff I can say that I probably get away with that he couldn't, just because the fact that he's the lead pastor.
Yeah, they're like, that's just Justin.
Right.
Literally.
Or it's
that's
like,
just Nate.
Or it's like, he doesn't do this very often. He slipped up. And people if you know me, I'll probably tell a joke on Sunday that it's not in my notes planned. It'll happen in the moment, and I won't know if it's.
We'll see what happens.
I won't know how inappropriate it is until it's coming out.
I'll be
the words come out.
Yeah, I'm as nervous as the rest of you when that happens. So.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So so I don't know. So I got to be real careful with that, because I will just want to when humor hits me, I have to say it. But sometimes I'm like,
we know everyone that watches this podcast is well aware.
Yeah, I'm like, oh God, I can't say that here.
Yeah, no, it is interesting, man. It's like when we were in we were at Life Church a while back, and then I watched a podcast recently. They were talking about great communicators. Craig Rochelle came up from Life Church in Tulsa, and they took his sermon. So he preached it 4 times. This was a sermon from like 4 years ago or something. He preached it 4 times on that Sunday morning, and the difference between the 4 services was literally like 120 words. That's unbelievable.
And he's not
out of a 40. He's
not standing at a podium.
He's just preaching. Like, he knows it. And there's a 120 word difference in a 40-minute sermon over 4 services. It's like, that's robotic.
That's wild.
So it's just so, I mean,
I love Craig Rochelle so much.
But he's also like, he's a dot the I cross the T person. Like, he wants it that way, and he works really hard to make it great. And then his messages are also super relatable and applicable and truth. It's like, and rooted in the Word of God. So it's like, that's just really, really impressive.
Well, I was just there.
Yeah,
that was last year. Yeah, that was just there. February or March? I went by myself.
Oh yeah,
that's right.
I thought you were talking about Dallas. I was thinking Dallas.
No. To Oklahoma City, and it was in the leadership context. But he shared with us, and I think I'm so thankful he does it, because he knows he gets accolades as like this great communicator. But he was trying to show the room the work. So they were talking about the Global Leadership Summit, and he said, so I gave a keynote last year. I'm giving a keynote next year. And he said, and he pulled up on the screen, and he's like, he was talking to us. He gave us the first time in public, he was talking about this concept that he's been thinking about, this leadership concept. And it was rough. It was a rough draft. He's like, I'm just going to fumble through this. He said, but what I'm trying to and he got to the end, he's like, what I'm trying to show y'all is, this is my keynote next year at the Global Leadership Summit, 48 weeks from now.
Right.
And I'm starting now. He's like, I take it this serious.
Yeah.
And he was talking about anytime I speak outside of when I'm invited somewhere, he's like, I probably put, there's probably 40 hours into each message, or he gave a number. I don't know what it is. I'm guessing with 40, but he was just like, but he's like, this is not, he's like, I don't do that with every sermon necessarily, but he was talking about the Global Leadership Summit, such a big event. He was like, but I know he's like, people call me the leadership guy. I don't just walk up there and do that. He's like, I'm a year in prep with this one message. And he said, and it'll take me a few months to narrow it down. Then the rest is downloading it to my soul. So I don't have to stand there and,
and fumble through it or look at
I could do it with no notes. It's just, but the other thing he does, when me and you recognized this when we were there, is I've seen him. I've been in the same room with him 5 or 6 times. One time he was at Highlands at Arc.
Yep.
Big room, and we were not close to the front.
No, 20th row or something.
Yeah, and I still felt like he was looking at me and talking to me.
Yeah.
But when you're in the room, when we were there at Oklahoma City, the first time when me, you, and Ashley were there, we're sitting in we're 2 rows back. He's literally from Kyle to us. And he wasn't looking right at me the whole time, but it sure felt like it.
Yeah.
It felt like he was preaching right to you.
Yeah.
even though he was scanning the room, but he did make, point to eye contact with everybody, or at least I assume. I just told you that last week that I heard a communicator say that he tries for everybody that he can see, he tries to make eye contact with every person once.
Yeah.
Which I was like, wow, that's impressive, But the more you make eye contact with, the better it draws them in. It feels so much more personal, So, or at least feels like you're making eye contact. Sometimes the lights and they may not realize they think you're making eye contact, you're not, or whatever. Yeah. That's not like a fake thing. We do have lights in our eyes and stuff. Like when you're up there.
Yeah, people would be shocked how little you can see sometimes.
Yeah.
I did think about that more, making eye contact with people this time around, because as I'm up there, I would say I've gotten more comfortable, so I'm thinking about that more. It's like when I was looking around, especially like when I was landing the plane with like the parents and stuff, like I was making eye contact. I was like, all right, I'm going to look at this person. I'm going to look at this person.
Like to the parents.
To the parents.
That was huge, man.
So I was thinking
part of your
about
message
that.
was huge. I mean, we caught that on Thursday, and we were all just like, all of us were universally like,
yeah, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize how impactful it was, and then they were like,
we need to. You need to do something with this right here. No, it really was, man. It was a powerful statement. So that being able to connecting with that audience is good. I mean, I was looking around the auditorium. I knew it was coming. So it was like, I'm looking around the auditorium and I'm looking at parents just like, like why? I was like, not that our goal is to make everyone cry, but it's like, if people are laughing with you or crying with you or clapping with you, they're connected to your content, so it's like not that that's our goal, not our goal to make them cry, but it's like, I think that it's resonating with people.
You don't want to be up there talking and like nobody like cares, like it doesn't resonate with you, right?
God,
so it's
you don't want to do that.
We've all been a part of a message like that, and it's like, well, why am I even here? Like, why am I even here?
Hello.
Hello.
Did you hear what I said?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
that one line was good.
No, it was cool.
I'm preaching better than y'all are amen today.
Yeah, I'm not saying that like that.
There's a couple people that came up to me and were like, "Hey, I know you don't have kids, and I normally wouldn't trust someone who doesn't have kids to talk to me about my kids, but I trust you, and I like even if I had kids in your youth group, I would trust you with everything that I have as a parent." I'm like,
yeah, it's a big deal.
Like that
I don't have kids, but I give lots of kid advice.
Yeah, like I didn't even think of that though. I didn't even think of that. Like, So whoa.
Yeah. Okay, that's good.
Okay, yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
No, but I'm with you. Yeah, they trust you. Yeah, or they would trust you.
Yeah. If they had kids, and I was like, I didn't even think about that. Like, to me, I'm just like so passionate about bringing the word of God to this next gen. Like, I don't even think about, I don't have kids. Like, what do people even think about that? If like,
that's a real thing, dude.
And
it's a real thing. You look at someone that has a lot of suggestions, but they don't have life experience. You know what I mean? And that it's not fair. Like that's why I tell it's like we went through the same thing. It's like I tell people all the time. It's like I used to tell people when I was your age, and I can't believe I said that out loud. I used to tell people that when I was in my 20s that I hadn't had certain life experiences. And I would remind them. It's like, yeah, but you don't. There's some things you don't need life to teach you if the Holy Spirit can download it to you. So like,
and I also don't subscribe to the idea that just because I haven't personally experienced something doesn't mean I can't speak to it.
Right. I don't need to live in a gutter to know I don't want to be homeless and create a plan for not doing that.
It's just like, I don't, and I get, again, you're talking about parent, I get no parent wants to be told how to parent, whether it comes from someone without kids or not, It's like, I get that. But it's like, the fact that I don't have kids doesn't mean that I can't observe every friend that I've ever had that does have kids and say, I would do that and I wouldn't do that. And then I don't have insight into what it means for kids,
Or like, like you see, especially it's like a lot of our friends we've known for a long time. So it's like we have friends, their kids are now 12, 13, 14, 15. Well, we have some friends that their kids are 12, 13, 14, 15, and we saw how their kids turned out, and we know exactly why they turned out that way. And then we have some kids who also have 12, 13, 14, and 15-year-olds, and their kids turned out much better. And to a degree, we can also attest to why that is that way. Like, I don't have to have kids to be able to look at that parenting style and that parenting style and be like, that kid's going to end up better than that one. And then it happens, and it's like, it's not. You know what I mean? It doesn't take a genius to figure that out.
I've always kind of prided myself on trying to be an observer of life. I want to observe people that are in marriages, how they operate, parents, the joke that I have that, I don't take financial advice from people broker than me because I observe. Like,
Right.
if you've been married 5 times, I don't want your relationship advice. Like, I don't. And that's not a knock to someone who's been, maybe you can't help that you've been married 5 times. Still don't want to hear it. Like, I don't take health advice from people fatter than me. Like, I know I'm not the picture of ultimate health and physique, but if you're fatter than me, I don't really want to hear it. That's just my thought.
It's wild. It's wild. But besides all that, I took it as a great honor that they would say that to me.
Justin's preaching this Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. So, no, you did a good job. That was a powerful moment in the sermon for sure, where you communicated to them. And I think it's undeniable. I mean, people were posting on social media afterwards, just like
maybe you'll have one of the clips go viral or something.
That'd be dope.
That would make your day.
Hey, that would
that would make your day.
Chad Veach comments on it.
Yeah,
wow, that happened. I'll call him
Pastor Chad. Man, that's like what you're talking about. People look up to. Like, that's someone that he is a lot. I'm a lot like him, and in my mannerisms and how I interact and like everything. So I look up to him and his communicating style and my mannerisms. Is that the right word? Mannerisms. Mannerisms.
Not mannerisms.
Mannerisms.
Mannerisms. That sounds like a
whatever.
Sounds like a dish at a Chinese restaurant.
I didn't go to college. Whatever.
All right. Sorry. His mannerisms. Yes.
Yes.
Chad
and so that's someone I look up to, and I like to communicate that way. So which. He's still finding my voice because he actually talked about on his podcast that, like, as a communicator, you probably don't even find your voice till like your mid 30s, late 30s, and like you take stuff after people.
Well, especially a lot of communicators don't get high rep counts when they're young. It's like a lot. It's like, I mean, you're 27. Yeah. It's like you're not going to get higher rep counts until you're 32, 33.
Well, especially like some of those guys like Chad Veach, Rich Wilkerson, Judah Smith. They were, as youth pastors, though, and part of it maybe it didn't hurt that they were friends and connected, but they kind of got on that youth conference circuit, which helped them with bigger crowds and more than just their youth group at their church.
Well, and they were preaching full-blown sermons to their youth groups. Same as me. Like I was preaching 30, 35-minute sermons to my youth group when I was 24. Right. So it was like every Wednesday. So to me, it's like producing content and being creative and shaping messages. Now my messages then were probably atrocious. Like I would look back on them and like, all those were terrible. But the reps is what I'm talking about. Getting more comfortable putting your words together. That's what I tell young people. Like, we're starting the Communicators Masterclass as part of Leadership Pipeline, and part of that is like you have to get comfortable hearing your own voice come out of your mouth. And that sounds weird, but you truly do have to get comfortable hearing your own voice out loud. Because for some people, that is a struggle. And it's hard for them. I don't love my voice when I hear it recorded.
No one does.
No one does.
Yeah.
But I am comfortable hearing it come out loud, which I think, like, whether it's a podcast or a sermon or teaching. Yeah, that's why you've embraced this is what I sound like when I speak with authority. And people that aren't comfortable, you can tell because they don't know how to, like, it's like, no, if I'm gonna talk, you're gonna know I'm here.
I wonder. Well, I mean, public speaking is the number one fear, more than death, that people have. Which is wild to me, but I guess I understand. Well, I don't really understand that you fear more than death, but apparently it's a thing, right? I mean,
well, yeah, and that's what I say. I think for most people, it's like, I think we continue to have more and more and more of a private society. We're more connected, but we don't have to use our voice for anything now.
Well, it's like what people don't realize, like this past Sunday when you were speaking, there's probably maybe 5 people in the room. Out of 5 people in the room, everyone else, no one's thinking, I wish I was up there. Right. Or I could do better than him, or because they would be terrified to be up there because it's just a fear they have, or maybe it's just not something they feel like calling or whatever. There's probably 5 people in the room that was like, I wouldn't mind being, I could do that.
It's a low number,
even if that's an arrogant statement. You know what I'm saying? But it's a low number. I think a lot of people they do public speaking. Their fear is like everyone's criticizing them or thinking they could do it better than I could. And I was like, no one's thinking that. No one's thinking that.
Well, and that's the thing too. It's like most people have to understand. It's like, when you're communicating, most people don't know the stories you're telling that like you know them anyway. Like, you know,
Right.
he's like, man, I messed that story up. I'm like, well, they don't know the real version.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
whatever
like,
version, whatever version you told them is the version they know.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you messed it up, just keep going because they don't know you messed it up.
Right.
You know what I mean? Unless you say like, you know, something.
If you fumbled your words,
You
like
fumbled
Nate
your
did
words.
in the
Like,
10
Yeah, the second service. Yeah, that was wild.
In the 10 o'clock service, they said,
Oh yeah, 10 o'clock service. Yeah.
Next steps.
I said, I couldn't think of the word connect them to their gifts. I couldn't think of the word connect. Like that was the word I was missing. I was just a brain fart and I just went blank.
I've
and
done
I'm like,
that before.
What is this word?
Yeah.
And I do that. That's why I have a lot of my sermon notes. I have stuff written out because I can't think of like stuff off the cuff. That's just not, maybe it's a.
Is that why you?
I can,
That's why you think you practice so much.
Absolutely.
Is that reason?
Because I cannot. Maybe that's something that I can develop in years to come. But I just can't. Like the way you just come up and have those main points and talk. Like I would have to know what I'm saying and memorize everything that I'm saying because I can't just. Because I'll space out and I'll just be like,
I wonder if any preachers use a teleprompter. Do they?
For sure.
You think so?
Like what comes up? You think so?
Really?
Do you think that's wrong?
I don't think so. No, I mean, it's a new age version of having your notes in front of you. You know?
There's also there's a church in Miami. They're the only ones I've seen do this. Christ Fellowship, not Todd Mullins, but there's another Christ Fellowship that's like a multi-site in Miami. Anyways, their pastor, he wears a headset mic, but in one ear he's got an in-ear monitor, to me that would be if someone talking to him while you speak, like that would be so distracting to me.
To me, he's probably. My guess is I don't know how Kyle is runs our production and stuff. I would think it's so that he doesn't have to have wedges on stage, but he's eliminating the bounce back that he's hearing in the room. So he's hearing because like if the room gets too big or there's too much echo or something like that, it becomes hard to talk because you can feel your voice moving around. Whereas if it's right in your ear.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you ever done the?
Yeah.
Have you ever
I
talked
can
on
see
the
that
phone in a like a retail store and it was like just a millisecond behind what you were saying and
yeah.
you could feel yourself waiting on it? It's like that. Whereas if you have it in your ear, yeah, yeah,
It almost creates a stutter, Kyle said.
So it's like that.
Interesting. I just didn't know if like is someone at some point
But that's some stuff I would do.
talking to
Put it in ear and have someone just relay my points to me while I would totally try that.
I feel like that would be distracting.
Yeah.
But I didn't think about like if you're planning it, you know. That's true. Producers or whatever, a news anchor.
Yeah, I mean,
know y'all
people.
can't hear
We
Kyle
talked
while
about it
he's
on
talking,
Thursdays.
but-
Like people would probably be shocked. No, Monday when I recorded. Yeah, I was like, people would probably be shocked to know we were talking about it. You were talking about when you were preaching, how you were thinking about something else while you were talking.
While I'm talking, my
Your mind is
isn't-
somewhere else.
Oh,
Yeah, and how
absolutely.
you have to
Almost
rein
the
that
whole
in.
time. Yeah.
I was telling them it's like there has been moments in the service where the keys player behind me, I didn't like what he was playing, and I was telling him what to play behind my back with my hand. You know what I mean? Like calling chords to him because I was like, I don't like what you're playing right. It's not fitting where I'm going. So follow me. And I'm actively preaching, but I'm holding up numbers behind my back. It's like, that's, Rick was like, when I told him that.
Yeah, no, when I read the wrong scripture in my head, I was like, oh, and then I moved down to the next scripture, started reading it. But in my head, I'm like, I can't believe I just did that. Like, Nate, why did you just do that? And then I'm like thinking about like, holy crap, like all this other stuff. And I'm just like, while I'm talking, while I'm preaching. And it's wild.
No, it's pretty interesting how much you think about some of those things while you're communicating. But yeah, no, it's there's a number. I think there's different ways to approach it. You know, it's like we said, like I'm a bullet point guy. It's like all I need is for the most part is that bullet point, but again, that's the work. Like that is the work.
Yeah, you didn't always do that.
No, and the amount of work. I mean, well, it was January of 24. No, January of 23 was when I started doing that.
Yeah. It wasn't like it's pretty recent that you're like, I'm done using my notes. Like I want to preach from.
Yeah, I don't want a podium in front of me.
Yeah.
Like I made that decision, and that was not because it's better to not have a podium. Just for the record, you know, Pastor Dan uses it. So it was just for me. It's like I feel like the most effective version of my communication is conversational. I feel like people are the most comfortable when they feel like I'm just having a conversation with them. And we're going to use this content, but what would it feel like to not have this giant thing in front of me that they're having to look over or past? It's just me sitting with them and having this conversation. So I made a point in January of 23. It's like, I want to be good at this, and I'm going to put in the work. So my content development happens way early. So months out, I've gotten most of the content down. Then on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday morning, combined total for like 8 hours. It's all about like, all right, structure this whole thing. Then Wednesday afternoon and Thursday morning, it's all right. It's memorizing it. It's like, how does, like, when I see this point, what are the 3 things I think of? Bam, 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 this point. And I usually, like, sometimes I'll write out cards and put them on the back. So it's like that main point, and it's almost like studying in high school. You know what I mean? Like literally, it's like, that's my main point. What are those 3 things? You know, the story about Kyle, the scripture about the 3 Hebrew boys in the fire, and the an encouragement for parents to do blank. And I'll flip it over. You know, it's like literally like getting reps in to remember it so that when I'm on stage, it's just there, you know. But then there is like, I think some people do have a natural gift of stringing words together. Like a lot of people tell me, like there are multiple people that come up. I probably get at least one a week, if not sometimes way more, where they're like, were you in the hip hop world? Like, did you rap or did you do anything? And it's like, there's certain moments where you're putting words together rhythmically that feel, and it's like, I think that's a natural, like that's just something you either have or you don't. But I also spend a lot of time looking at synonyms and antonyms. And I was working with Nate, and I was like, let's just look up the synonyms. And he was like, synonyms? And I was like, yeah, let's find this word we're looking for. And so we were like, we spent 10 minutes like looking through synonyms and antonyms for the best word for something for his sermon.
Bust out the old thesaurus.
Yeah. We were on Google. Yeah, we're just like, we were like, we're
you use a thesaurus still?
Not like
what?
not like a paperback one, like a physical one.
Yeah. But yeah, no, we did that.
Is there another word for thesaurus?
Dictionary.
Let's Google it. Google it. Synonyms for thesaurus.
That's a stupid joke. What does a thesaurus say is another word for a thesaurus?
But yeah.
I get it. I see what you did there. Yeah, no, that was funny. But for this Sunday, I hope the power doesn't turn off for you.
Nate did to preach there a couple. You did really good, man.
A lot of people told me, I didn't even, because the microphone went off. Everything went off for like 10, 15 seconds or whatever. And people were like, I didn't even think the microphone went off. I guess.
The front fills are on bad. That's what I told him.
So the microphone didn't go off at all? Not for 1 second?
It did in the room, but the front fill speakers right in front of the front row are on battery backup. So those kept running even though the big speakers turned off.
Oh.
So like where Leah was sitting, she's getting that front fill.
Oh, okay. So was I yelling then? No?
No, you did good. Yeah. That room carries pretty well as long as things are quiet.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah. Well, good. Yeah. So that was
you're a louder communicator too.
I
am too. I can carry. I carry pretty loud. So
dang, power flickered.
Yeah, power flickered twice. I think that thunder was booming. You kept on going. The thunder to me is more annoying than the power outage. The power outage is one of those things where it's like, it was like, all right, it happened. We all know it happened. It's not, but it's like for the thunder, the continual thunder boom is almost like. It's so distracting.
Yeah, because when you start hearing the rain, I'm thinking about, oh my gosh, it's raining out there while I'm preaching. My mind's like, oh, I'm hearing the rain.
It was coming down.
Yeah. And so like that's
that's true.
I didn't think about that. Yeah.
So that's another thing. I was literally thinking about the rain. Oh, the rain is just like coming down as I'm preaching. I'm like,
I've thought before. It was a couple weeks ago when the thunder boomed while I was preaching, and I was like. In my mind, I was like, do I make a joke about this? Like, sometimes things are so obvious, and everyone in the room is thinking the same thing.
Yeah, so
which is like, oh God, that's really bad rain. It's almost like I'm always weighing out, like, do I just address it? Now we can all laugh, and then I'll move on. Yeah. And that particular day, I chose not to. I just stayed. But it's like, there's so much that happens that people be shocked. And that's why take this moment to make a little plug.
Oh.
If you can control the distractions, please do so, i.e. crying children, stuff like that. It's like we try to be, we definitely want to be a church where like we don't feel like moms get chastised, but if the baby's crying, if they're on number 2 or 3 of cry, it's like, come on,
here's the thing.
Here we go.
Here's the deal. What chapter is this? Kids are welcome in the auditorium, just like adults are.
Absolutely.
But no one has the right to be distracting. If you were an adult, we would ask you to come out. Absolutely. And that's kind of how we feel about kids. Not that kids aren't welcome, but the thing is we work really hard and we have really gifted people that design services for those kids.
Yes.
And in the auditorium is probably not the most appropriate place for your child in the building. There are other rooms. Yeah. So, which is fine. If you don't want to put them in there, like whatever reason, that's cool, right? Or if it's a baby, we get it. However, once it becomes a distraction to the people around, then we feel like it's counterproductive to what God's wanting to do in the people that's sitting around you.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's not doesn't mean you're a bad parent. Kids make noise, and it's fine. Yeah, that's 100%. Why also the very back row, we have signs on them that they're for people with families with kids. And if you sit there and you're not a family with kids, like please sit somewhere else.
That way you can get to the exit as quickly as possible.
Not only that, like sometimes, especially with the baby may make noise, but sometimes you just need to stand up. And like we are totally cool if you have like an infant to go stand in the back, and if you need to like kind of pace a little bit or walk, like
bounce.
That is completely fine with this. But if you're sitting in the middle of a section and you got a 4-year-old or a 3-year-old or a 2 or whatever, and it's making noises, distracting, it is distracting people around you. And I would say this: if you've never publicly spoke in your defense or as the preacher's defense, it's hard enough to get up there and do that without that, And it's like, imagine if you were trying to do that and there's this person making noise. I'm gonna say person, not just blame it on the kid, but that would be very hard. So it's like our intention is not to embarrass anybody. If our ushers, this is good. We're talking about this. Ushers will come if it's a distraction and ask. If you're a parent, your child's making noise and you're not making a move to get up, our ushers will come, and our intention is not to embarrass you, but our intention is to limit distractions, and we're gonna do that.
Well, I was
gonna say the distraction comes to because distraction is like from person to person what they think. That comes like you were saying, the second and third time this baby's crying, it's like, okay, like can you please take there's.
Yeah,
and we're also not saying like the first time there's a peep, like maybe it's like the child's indicating I'm hungry, you're getting the bottle out or something.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah,
cool.
Whatever. No, it's the continuation thing, and again, it goes back to like what are we here for, right? Yeah, you may have a great relationship with God. You may be solid in your faith. The message may be applicable to you, but it's not monumental. But the dude sitting next to you or the person sitting 2 rows in front of you, they may be making an eternal decision today.
Yeah, that's good.
Their eternity might change today.
That's good.
And your child or you that's making all this noise may be the very thing that's distracting them and making that very difficult. So it's like that for us is really what it's about. Yeah, it's hard on the communicator. Yeah, it's it's like all those things are yes and amen. Those things are true. But at the end of the day, you never know when the person that's very close to you is trying to listen because they were thinking about committing suicide or they're thinking about making a decision from hell to heaven or any of those things. And it's like they don't need to have those distractions, right? So that's the big heart behind it. Yeah. But no, absolutely.
Well, not only that, what's always bugged me in church before I was even in leadership is not the kids, it's the seasoned Christian. It could be any age, but like as soon as you get to the end and you go into like a prayer mode, you haven't got to the sinner's prayer yet part. You haven't got to the invitation part yet, but it's clear you're closing, and the Christians kind of pack up and want to beat the crowd out. Yeah. It's like, dude, you're making so much distraction for the person that may be on the verge of making a decision and needs to hear the instruction that's about to come.
You're climbing over them.
They're needing to hear what you're saying as far as like, this is means something to you. What do I do? But it's like, just like, can you not wait 3 more minutes? And
Chris Hodges went through a season where he literally when he was preaching and people would, they do the binders and he was like, no one click your binder and no one get up and move.
the bio.
I think because I was talking about that with the kids, like I tell them, like, you're not going to leave until we're done worshiping at the end. And it's not to be mean, it's not to be rude. We're in the presence of God.
Well,
like we need to revere and honor the presence of God because we're here for the lost.
Well, and for you, it's so important because this generation lives in dysfunction and calls it normal.
Yeah.
They just get up when the teacher's talking. Just do, and it's like, no, you need to, like you said, it's like you said it on Sunday. You need to learn to sit down in the presence of God for more than 10 minutes.
Absolutely.
Like you need to. Well, and you have to go to the bathroom. Well, so you're grown. You're not 5. You're 15.
You can
sit
wait
down.
10, 15 minutes.
Or the person that's like, I remember one time it was a guy, and I don't know if they were new or not, but I kind of found it. It was comical to me in a sense, like, dude, you got 4 refills of coffee during the sermon. Like, you spent more time at the coffee bar out there than in the message. Like, really? Like, I just like, come on, bro. Like, why did you even
do you remember the lady that had the bells on her sandals and we couldn't figure out where those were coming from? That was wild, dude. I remember at one point I was preaching. If you're watching this, I don't remember your name, but just don't put bells on your sandals. But she had bells on her sandals, but we still
love you though.
She had her legs crossed and she was shaking her foot.
I do remember that.
It was the whole time.
It was behind me, and I'm like,
it was like 1 or 2 seats behind you.
What is that?
And literally, my mom was going nuts. She was like, where is this sound coming from? So I'm seeing my mom do this number, and Justin's peeking around. And at one point, Tremaine's looking around. We're like, because they thought it was a baby with a rattle. And it was like, where is this baby at? And there wasn't a baby. It was, I could see her foot shaking, ka-jing, ka-jing, ka-jing. And I was like, at one point while I was preaching, I was like I was making points, but I was looking at her trying to be like, stop.
So here's a question. Would it have been wrong to make a joke
Dude,
of it? Because obviously she's not meaning it.
Right, you don't want to make her feel bad.
You don't want to make her feel bad, but could you have made it a light of it but pointed it out?
I weighed that out in real time.
I mean, especially, but what are those super distracting you as the preacher? I can't get through this message. I've got to address this for my own sake to get through the rest of the message and make light of it.
My thing is like I'm up there. Like I think as a communicator up there, you should be able to still communicate and be able to finish off without calling out that person.
So let me ask this: is it ever appropriate to call out something from the platform?
I think so.
I think so.
So yeah, so literally, in that particular situation, the moment crossed my mind at one point that I was like, I'm fixing to tell this lady this is holy ground. Like, take your shoes off. This is holy. Like, make that kind of a joke. Like, I'm finna hit you with a Moses situation. I need you to take them shoes off because we're on holy ground and your bells are distracting me. I was really close to doing that, but at the end of the day, it's like, but again, it's like, who else? You know, obviously my mom heard it, you heard it, True heard it, and True was in the back. Like, everyone heard it, so it's like everyone's sitting there thinking the same thing.
I don't think that's your responsibility. I think that's the ushers. Like, hey.
The thing, they couldn't find it because it's her foot. It's like down here, right?
Yeah,
it's like,
I remember thinking, what is it? Like, it was, because it would stop for a minute.
Well, even at the end, True came into me. He's like, we could not find that baby with that toy. And I was like, it wasn't a baby with a toy. And that was what they were looking for the whole time. So, but no, I mean, there's been certain moments where I was close. And it's usually, and it's usually, if I'm ever tempted to do it, it is usually one of our people. So it's like they know my heart. They know I'm not trying to be real. Like, you know, if it's someone I've never seen them before, never met them before, I'm usually just going to persevere, let the ushers do their thing if they can handle it, and just try to make it through. So, you know, teenagers, when I was a youth pastor, I didn't play no games, bro.
No,
I call them out by
different.
shirt color. Red shirt, sit down. I got to go to the bathroom. Now, right now, you don't. Like, that was literally how I operated.
Absolutely.
No, because it would have to be a crazy scenario to have to like kind of call someone out, because you know it's going to embarrass them, or you know someone's going to think, wow, that was.
We've had people do that to us where like we had to deal with it, and someone was like, that was just really rude that you guys talked. It's like, what do you want us to do?
I apologize. There was a couple, it's been a while back, but they were new with us, but they had a child in, and one of the ushers come up and asked them to come out for a few minutes. And their point to me was the fact that the usher did that was more distracting to the room than the noise the baby was. I said, well, One, I understand the point you're making because they were on the second row. She's like, the fact that everyone in the room could see what was happening. That's more of a distraction than the noise our baby was making. I said, one, I see your point. Two, that's also a subjective statement. And I said, and then when I explained to them and they understood, I kind of explained to them like our policy, which we just kind of shared, but it was almost like I told them, I said, also, we're not going to get it right every time either. I kind of apologize for the usher because I thought the usher was a little on the rude side. Again, I didn't hear it. Could be subjective to say he was rude or not. I don't know. But I did say at the end of the day, I was apologetic in the sense of they just know the ushers know our policy and we may not get it right. Maybe they were rude. Maybe they were having a bad day. It's like, and when we don't get it right, we apologize. If we did it, if we worded what we asked wrong that felt like we were calling you out or making you feel bad, we do apologize for that. Like that's not our intention, but we don't apologize for us maintaining the order in our auditorium.
Right.
That is, and no one gets to dictate the atmosphere except us or God, right? Yeah. No one gets to dictate like, I don't agree with your policy, and I'm just going to sit here with my crying baby. No. This is our auditorium, the church's auditorium. You know what I mean? Yeah. But thankfully, that's never been a situation that heavy where we've had to do anything like that. But just so people understand that our intention is not with the kids is not to make anyone feel bad, but our intention is to give everyone the opportunity to hear the gospel in the least amount of distractions. That's the ultimate goal. And again, if other than an infant, we have really gifted people that spend a lot of work designing church services that are age appropriate for those kids, and they
are phenomenal,
and they're much better off in one of these rooms. And if you're new and that's why you're not, I get it. But I would highly consider letting your kids go to kids' church just for that reason. Our kids' church is not daycare, so adults can have good church services. It's kids' church.
It's real. Yeah, they're doing a phenomenal job.
And that's real. So
and all of our teachers pass background checks.
It's safe. Vetted. It is very vetted.
Yeah. So it's like one of those deals where, and I tell I was telling anyone around minors is
And maybe now that we're doing some house cleaning, let's say this to help the kids' church. There's been times recently that it's come to our attention that there's been parents go to pick their kids up and they threw their sticker away to pick their kid up. And then when the teachers are enforcing the safety policies, the parents are getting rude and frustrated with the kids' church people. Yeah. And I get it. You're trying to get your kid, you're trying to get out of here. Those safety measures exist for a reason. And please don't take your frustration out on the person that's enforcing the policy that exists to keep your kids safe.
Yeah. And you don't want a one-on-one meeting with me to complain about it. Trust me.
But and when it comes to safety, where our elementary and preschool classes are, there is we call them campus support. It's essentially a security guy that stands back there through every service, and if you don't have a sticker, you don't get past him. Yes. We do these things to keep your kids safe.
Absolutely.
So we understand sometimes you throw your sticker away on accident, whatever. Those stickers do matter, though. And here's the deal. We're not a small church anymore.
No.
And we have new people that join teams, and not everyone knows who everyone's kids are. So the sticker does matter because our church is growing. So please treat the sticker seriously because we're trying to keep your child safe.
We had over 1,200 people come through.
We want to keep your kids safe. So the safety of the kids is our biggest concern.
The thing is, I want you to think, if you went to the hospital right now and they valeted your car, and you went to go get in your car, and they were like, "Oh, I'm sorry, your car's not here anymore. We gave it to someone else." And you go, "Why did you give it to someone else?" "Oh, because they threw their sticker away and they just said it was theirs." You'd be pretty upset
if that happened to your kid.
Now it's your child.
Now it's your child.
Yeah. So it's like So don't throw your sticker. Same thing. If you flew on a plane. Yeah. And you went to get your luggage, and your luggage was gone, and someone was like, "Well, so they just said it was there." It's like, no, you need the sticker.
The fact of the matter is, if you lose a sticker and then you get mad at our people, the illogical one is you. And we really love you and all that. But what we're saying is, help us out because. We're not a small church. There's a lot of kids and there's a lot of parents. For every kid, there's two parents sometimes.
We spend a lot of time thinking about the systems that we put into place to keep the kids safe.
We want to keep them safe.
Yeah. And it doesn't happen all the time, but when it happens, it's like it's a way bigger deal than it needs to be on our team. And the thing too, for the record, There's only one person out of the 40-something people that serve in TC Kids. There's only one of them that works here. Everyone else is a volunteer. They're a dream teamer. So they're doing this because they love impacting kids with the message of Jesus. They don't have to come back next week if they don't want to. And if you make them not want to, now you got to watch your kid during Sunday service because you chased away dream teamers because you couldn't keep a sticker. So it's like, all that to say is like, it doesn't happen that often, but help us help you help them. All right. That's all we're saying. Because if you can help us help you help them, then they can help us help you.
And everybody's happy.
Yeah, everyone's happy. It doesn't happen that often, but we just felt like we needed to talk about that for a minute.
It did come up recently, and it was the person that was the dream teamer and the kids was like very, because they were not intentionally trying to ruin this person's day or whatever. They were trying to enforce policy, but it was very discouraging to them. Like they were upset about it. The fact that someone in our church got rude with them because they were doing the thing that kept their child safe.
I sent them a gift card.
Yeah. Is that true?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
like,
awesome.
Good job.
Come on.
I think so. I told Ashley, let's send him a gift card. So
that's awesome.
Love that.
As they should.
So yeah.
Let's go. I don't care what their parents said. You did a good job.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
but the flip side of that? It hasn't happened here. We haven't run into it, but it is. We know of instances in churches across the country where sometimes people go through like custody battles, or sometimes there's a parent that because of a custody battle is not allowed to be with the kid, but they show up to the church and mom's in service and the dad who's not supposed to be there goes to kids and gets his kid out, and it's his kid. But
he has no
legally,
sticker.
he has there's paperwork, but no one knows that. And then he leaves with the kid, and the mom comes to get the kid, and the kid's gone. It's like,
and she has a sticker.
Imagine how terrifying that would be.
That's real life, dude.
That's real life.
That happens. Yeah.
And
it hasn't happened at TC, but it does happen.
And imagine how terrifying, one for the mom, but for the volunteers that did that. That wasn't their intention, but imagine, because if you're in a situation like that, the dad's probably not the best person for the kid to be around, and you just release. Like, imagine how that would weigh on you. You know what I mean?
Like, policies exist for a reason.
They exist for a reason.
They exist for a reason.
And our people are instructed to follow them. And if anyone has a problem with our policy, I'm your guy. Come holler.
Justin's your guy.
Hey, come on.
I can promise you that's gonna be a great conversation.
Come talk to me. Come talk to me.
We're gonna record that.
I would love to see
We'll straighten it out. It'll be fine. It'll be great.
World star worthy. World star worthy.
It'll be fine. It'll be great.
No, there's so many things happening. What you said a statement earlier that's a really big deal. We're not a small church anymore, and it's like there were so many things that you could get away with when everyone knew everyone. There's only 200 people in the building. Those days are gone, and it's amazing. It's great that we've grown, but those days are gone.
I mean, we ran into it. Not to like put all of our businesses out there, but I think a year or two ago when you took over for students, we ran into it on Wednesday nights, where it was like people were just. I saw it one day because I was leaving, and I saw parents come in and just drop the kids off. I was like, Nate, are any of these kids getting checked in and stuff? Like, what are we doing? Because it's like the parents don't, and I know that's not something the parents. They just want to drop the kid off in like the skating ring. I thought about back in the day the skating ring. It's like
wild.
Legally, how did I don't know. It's just but it was like, man, they're not kids, but they're minors.
Yeah, but stuff you don't think about.
I guess they are kids, like teenagers, but they're minors. But it's like, man, we got to be checking these kids. We need to know who's in our care when they're in our care.
Absolutely.
And so we had to like put up. I told Nate, I was like, you got to like a week to figure out a system for this, but it's got to happen.
We spent quite a bit of money on making those things happen, not just for Nate, but I mean for kids. I mean iPads and computers and printers and stuff. Like we've gone to just a great extent to make sure that your kids are safe, and so it matters. We're just asking you to help us. For all jokes aside, it is like we did deal with some of that, and we don't deal with it often. But all the policies, whether it's the auditorium, whether it's CC Kids, whatever the case may be, someone just this past Sunday came up to me, like, I need to meet with you, and I was like, okay, well, it's like I told him the same shit. It's like, man, go through the website, call us or email us. Tiff, my assistant will get you connected with me. He's like, well, just give me your number now and I'll text you later this week. I've never met this dude a day in my life. And he's like asking for my cell phone number. And I was like, sorry, man. Our policy is that I don't give my phone number out to people in the church. I said, I hope you can understand. I said, I'd be more than happy to meet with you, but here's the way you need to do it. And he's like, well, that's shit. And it's like, policies exist for a reason. You know what I mean? So
I'll make this promise. Every policy that exists has been thought out and dissected
far more than you would realize.
Than you would realize.
100%.
And what you just said though is not a diva statement. Like I don't just give my cell phone number out to people in the church because I can see someone saying, "But you're the pastor of the church," and people should be able. It's like right, but there's 1,200. Like it would never stop. So there has to be some things in place to there's got to be some guardrails and some things in place.
Yeah.
One for privacy, but two just to structure it. Like you're not one if that guy needs to meet and needs some counseling. We're not going to counsel over the phone. So having the cell phone numbers is really irrelevant other than the fact that it would get him on the calendar, but you don't set the calendar. Tiffany does.
Well, and the thing, yes, but the thing is like, even if you did need, we don't do counseling here, but even if you did need someone to sit with you or you and your wife or whatever, to have conversations. Well, we have specific pastors and elders that are gifted in specific arenas.
Right.
So you're probably not going to get to me anyways. And that's not a diva thing. It's like, no. Elder Derek and his wife Deborah are masters at finances. So if you need help with finances, it doesn't do any good to sit down with me. You need to sit with Derek and Deborah, who are Derek's an elder in our church. If you need spiritual guidance on how to, move forward in your marriage because you're struggling with that, David Cash, who is an elder, and Terry are phenomenal. They've been leading couples in that in 30 years. If you need theological understanding of how to view God properly, Craig Sale was a pastor for longer than I've been alive. Him and his wife Elise, they can help you with that. And so we have elders that are in place. We also have pastors. And it's like, there's a good chance I'm not even your guy, because it's like we have people that are experts in these areas that can actually help you better than I can. And just because I preach a good message on Sunday mornings because I memorize it on Thursday does not make me qualified to counsel your area.
And I get where people go. Like I get it, but it's like if you like say you're a group leader and having issues with your group, so you want to meet with Pastor Brad. Like Pastor Brad doesn't lead. Rick does that. That's Rick's role. Yeah. So it's not that you don't matter. And at the end of the day, if you wanted to get on Pastor Brad's calendar, it can happen.
It still can happen.
But it's going to happen on the system we have in place. One, because our system exists to keep him healthy, because he's got to be our leader, right? So the system exists. So there's time for him to spend time with his wife and have a healthy. If his marriage is not healthy, then what else is any of this for, right?
Right.
Yeah, so there's that, which we encourage everyone to do, right? There's got to be study and prep time for the messages.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's there's time. I know you spend like with your like overseers and like your pastors, right? The point, like there's all these things that exist, and we don't always have the luxury to explain all that to everyone, and it's just
and how many meetings we get in that 5 minutes into the conversation, I'm going, you don't need to talk to me. You need to talk to Justin. People are like, hey, I want to let you know about, I know you're doing the expansion. We want to let you know about this thing we do and the services we offer. And I'm like, it does you no good to be talking to me right now. Let's go get Justin. Whereas if you went through, and this is before we had the proper channel set up. Now we have the proper channels. It goes back to what you said earlier. It's like, we've thought a lot of this through, where it's like, now the channels exist to make sure you get in front of the right people so you don't waste the wrong people's time and yours.
Including yours.
Yeah, we don't want you to sit in a 30-minute with me just to have to rehash the whole thing all over again when you get in front of Pastor Justin or Pastor Rick.
We would much rather you just say, I'd like to get to know Pastor Brad better. Because a lot of times that's what they're asking.
Sure.
That's what I think.
Yeah. And for some people, that's the reality of it.
And if that's the case, then that's understandable. That's completely understandable that you want to know your pastor a little bit. Like, I totally get that. So, but again, there's mechanisms for that, that type of thing. So, we got the meetup, yeah.
Hey, wow. Kyle's giving a shout out to the meetup. So, if you're new in the church and you want to meet some of our pastors, you can come August 4th to the
Coffee Guy on Davis Highway.
Underground or original?
I think it's the original, but I'm not
OG
sure.
Coffee Guy on Davis Highway on August the 4th.
Yeah, from 6 to 8.
This is why you don't want to meet with me.
Yeah.
You can be like, when's the meetup? I'll be like, I don't know.
But that's a testament to your
leadership. I only know this because we talked about it yesterday.
Yeah, but that's a testament to your leadership too, that you don't have to control everything, that you trust people.
Big facts.
But going back just to my like I do promise on behalf of all of us, like every policy, our system or whatever has been thought out and dissected far more than you probably would realize, and exists for a reason, even if you don't understand the reason or that,
Trust the process.
We overanalyze that more than you do, I
process.
promise. So, yeah.
Because we want to care for everyone. So we have to do things in place to make sure we can spread out.
And I'll say this, and then we'll get ready to move on and move out, because we got stuff we got to do today. Remember, if you came from a church of 200 people, or 100 people or 50 people. What you were capable of in smaller churches is not the way things can run in larger churches. And if it ran the way it did in smaller churches, our church would still be one of those smaller churches. In other words, like as you grow, things have to scale. So that's just the nature of business, church, anything. So it's like, you know, if you walk into a mom and pop, you know, shop, paint store today, you can probably meet the owner and shake his hand. If you walk into a Sherwin-Williams, you're not meeting the owner and shaking his hand. You want to know why? Because he lives in like Virginia or something. You might meet a manager, i.e., in our world, a different pastor or someone else. It's like that can help you because, and that's the way things go. So, like, just so you know, it's like, people want the access of small church, but they want the resources of big church. And it's like, well, that's just, it's not always the way that goes. So just know that we love you and we do care for you.
Absolutely.
But sometimes the best way we can care for you is to make sure that you're in front of the right person. And sometimes that's just not me. Oftentimes it's not me, to be honest with you, because we have people that are qualified in a lot of different areas that's what they oversee. And they're really, really good at what they do. I trust them, so you can trust them. So, and then there's students. And
you trust me? I was about to say,
well, no, we trust everyone else. Then there's students. So we don't trust Nate very much. I'm just kidding. Nate, you did a great job Sunday.
Yeah.
Proud of you.
Thank you so much.
Good job.
Appreciate it. Looking forward to Pastor Justin up there. Come on.
Hey, yo.
Yeah.
This week.
So,
is the whole staff going to get papers and hold them up like the students did for you?
Hey, I'm for it. I didn't know they were doing that. They even got me flowers and everything. Like, I was like, we just want to bring the culture from Wednesday. I'm like, that's so cool.
Love it.
I was like, y'all are awesome.
Listen, the future of our church is in safe hands.
What kind of flowers?
Roses.
What color?
Red.
Oh.
Never mind.
Just kidding.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. This
this
was really a housekeeping podcast.
It's been real.
We wanted to talk about some things that
ain't been real fun.
Well, you know. All right. Well, Justin, if by God, if they said to themselves, "This is the church I need to know more about,"
yes,
where?
Listen, you might want to wander onto that World Wide Web.
The www.
transformationchurch.com.
The internet.
Yeah. Got a fancy new website. It's been up for a few weeks now, or months, or whatever. Yeah. It's new. So
newish.
If you haven't perused that thing, give it a perusing. Give it a good perusing. Got a new website there. We're also on all the socials at Transformation Pensacola. Boom. Go. Yeah, there it is.
Oh, there it is. Come on.
Like, subscribe, share, click the bell.
You belong here.
Comment, all those things.
That's right. Do the stuff. All right. Hey, listen. We appreciate you tuning in for another episode of the Message Recap Podcast. We'll see you next week for another week, another sermon, another Message Recap Podcast. Later, guys.
Peace.